So we're back with TBATE chapter 199. And the first thing I want to say is the art was amazing in this chapter. So we resume with Arthur giving his speech to all the royals at the ball. And he announces that he is the one who defeated the Vitra. Everyone is shocked during this moment. And during this moment, Arthur is basically telling the rest of the people of Decathlon that they have nothing to worry. And he explains to them that he is the weakest land, and yet he still defeated one of the powerhouses of the Vitra army. He's the one who defeated a retainer. And he also lied to them, telling them that, hey, I defeated her and I sustained no injuries. People like Tess know what's really up. She knows that some Arthur isn't quite telling the entire truth. And she's wondering, like, what is Arthur holding in? Then after Arthur gave his speech, he went back behind the curtains with Viron. And y'all see this art right here? This is prime right here. This is what we needed. And once he got back there, we could see that basically Arthur's body just gave out. And we could tell that, like, he still actually fully hasn't healed yet. He was struggling the entire time to stand up. Viron jokes with him, was like, hey, don't push yourself too much, kid. And Arthur's like, dude, like, you sprung this on me. I have no idea I was going to do this. But then we start getting into the real reason that speech was given. And Gideon shed some light on some things. The hologram pops up and we see this guy right up here. He's known as the person who's in charge of the dwarves. And we see he's not having the best reaction to Arthur's words. We see multiple reactions of him biting his teeth and cringing at the point that Arthur defeated one of the Vitra, or that somebody defeated one of the Vitra's retainers. And it's basically corroborating with the suspicion that somebody was working with him, that somebody was a mole, and they're very keen on the fact that it was potentially him. But then Viron notices something, and Gideon catches on to it too. He notices that the dwarven leader was staring at Vere, mainly because, the retainer was encased in ice, and she's the ice Sub-Zero Lance. So he wholeheartedly thought that she's the one who killed it. So he was kind of tweaking for a little bit. And then this is where Viron kind of lets Arthur in on his plan. He said, yeah, I wanted them encased in ice so they could think that it was the strongest lance that killed him, only to find out it was technically the weakest lance, showing them that they're not even close to the power in which we are actually capable of. W. Viron for thinking 3 steps ahead. Arthur, begins to leave the room, but he notices Tess was already there. She potentially might have been eavesdropping on the conversation, as her little nosy ass tends to do from time to time. So he goes out there with Tess, and they're walking around the ballroom, and Arthur notices that the vibe is kind of changed. People are more festive. They seem to be in good spirits. But Arthur kind of doesn't really want to be out there, especially with his body not really have been recovered fully. So Tess, she brings him in and helps support him while he's walking so that no one else can really notice. She also has another reason for this, so none of the other noblemen will ask her for a dance or a drink. Also, so that Arthur won't have to do any small talk with any of the noble women, because Arthur ain't really with the small talk. W. Tess. And while they're walking around, Tess is introducing and telling Arthur who's the important people in the room and what they do. And this is where Arthur explains, like, he has some work to do in this type of field. Back in the day when he was a king, he didn't really have to care about other people and what they had going on. But now in this life as a general, he's like, okay, I kind of need to learn some of these things and I need to be a little bit more careful how I'm moving. And he acknowledges that Tess has all this information. She lived as a royal her entire life. And Arthur acknowledges that she makes these specific things easier for him to get through. I like how they're slowly building up this relationship right here. This is good development. Then after Arthur and Tess have their little interaction with Ellie and Boo, they go out into the patio. Tess explains, like, it's kind of crazy to think that there's a war going on when things look so peaceful at a time like this. And Arthur, kind of reassures her during this moment, letting her know, like, hey, like, you're not wrong for thinking like this. You're allowed to. Because there needs to be some type of break. You're the head of an entire unit now, and you're responsible for a lot of other people's lives. He says that's something that'll never be easy when you have to carry the burden of others. And Tess is like, you speak so surely as if you've gone through this before. As a lance, you don't even command people. You're just kind of doing your own thing. And Arthur's like, you're right, but I gotta talk to you about something. And she's like, yo, does this have anything to do with what you were talking with my grandpa about? And he was like, it's that obvious, huh? He's like, am I really that much of an open book? She's like, nah, you're kind of more of like an open chapter for real, if we're going to be honest. There are things I don't necessarily know about you, but there are things that I know a lot about you. And then she asked him like, so what's your secret? And he was like, what do you mean? Like, you're an expert at everything you do. Arthur's like, he just tried to pass off like, I just read a lot of books when I was younger. And she's like, I don't know what I expected to have an answer from you. And Arthur's trying to console her and say, hey, like, I don't understand why you're in such a hurry to advance. You're doing really good. This is where she actually like lets down and be insecure for once. She's just like, it's frustrating, honestly. She was like, I'm only literally a half step behind you in terms of core. I'm also a beast tamer, and I've also trained and studied underneath some ashra. And she says, the further I get to getting closer to you, the further you slip away. She says, please just promise that you'll come back safely. I don't care how many scars you get or whatever, just come back home and in one piece. And then Arthur's like, why is it so important that you catch up to me? Then this is where Tess drops another bomb. She says, only then will I have enough confidence to tell you I love you again. Damn, that's tough right there. And that's like beautiful too, in all honesty. Like at this point, she truly doesn't even really feel worthy to garner somebody of Arthur's caliber's love. That's some real shit right there, man. I don't care what anybody says, especially my light novel readers who don't like Tess. This is some real shit. This is some real life stuff right here. But I think this was a great chapter because it really expounded upon their relationship and the dynamic that they have. What did you guys think about the chapter?